Hello, everybody. Celia Waterhouse here. Thanks for joining us at OnPoint Mentors. Today we have one of our OnPoint mentors, Tania Tuck.
Hello.
And Tania is an emotional wellness specialist and a coach. She's a teacher, she's an author, and she particularly deals with managing trauma-stemming emotions, reframing those events and finding new meanings to them, and transforming perceptions. Whoa, that's a mouthful. Welcome, Tania. Thanks for joining us.
No, it's lovely to be here. Thank you.
Now, Tania, today I'm just going to ask you one question.
Okay.
The world is kind of upside down, or else perception, it's upside down, and it's very divisive, and emotions are running high. So how do you help your clients? What's the one piece of advice that you can share with them to help them manage their emotions during this challenging time?
Okay. Well, I have a few in my head, but the one that stands out most of all is the idea of making sure that you are focusing on the thing you can control rather than things you can't. One of the things that seems to be quite going mad at the moment is news. And the news, I have an app on my phone for the BBC News, which I sometimes am looking at just the headlines, and it's just doom and destruction and disappointment and death and all of these D words that just make me go, gosh, if I took that as the only angle on the world, I wouldn't be very happy. I'd be thinking the world is a terrible place. And that's not necessarily the case. I know that there was a story about when in the turn of the century they had the serial killer in London called Jack the Ripper. At the very same time, there was another serial killer up in the north of England. But because the press was not syndicated, there was somebody leaving beheaded heads in fields, which is just as horrific. Well, maybe not, but I don't know. It's still a horrific way of, being a serial killer. Whereas the only one that stands the test of time, that's in history and in books and everything, is all about Jack the Ripper. And this idea made me realize so much more is going on in the world than what the news is deciding to focus on in order to influence opinion and things. So to be very aware of the input that you're getting from your environment, like who's saying what and how much balanced viewpoints are you getting? And, if it's, say, Fox News on in the background all the time, what else are you doing to counterpoint that kind of opinion? Because it is an opinion. It's not necessarily factual or truthful. It's coming from an angle of an opinion. So I would think about that. I really think it's something you can just turn off or limit so that you're in charge of that. And same with people around you that I call the energy vampires, the ones that you just need to stand next to, and it's all about them, and they've just sort of absorbed all the nurturing stuff you could possibly give them, and they've just sucked you dry, and now you're feeling a little bit like you need to have a drink of water or something to rehydrate, because they've just taken everything from you. And these days there's a lot of people who are feeling very disempowered, and so the way that they feel empowered is to talk about it, be with, just to share their opinion, not necessarily they're going to take action or anything. So be careful where you're getting your information from, and try and get a nice broad source. And I think it's about letting go of the things we can't change, because when I had a friend of mine telling me about some terrible famine going on, I was thinking, how much can I affect change? I mean, in the end, is it not better that I look to my own community right here, right now, and see what's needed and how can I be of service? Now, obviously, you can go and give to a charity and support the wildlife fund or whatever you think, which would give you some control over it. But there's nothing I can do from my house to stop the fishermen whaling, big, beautiful blue whales. There's nothing I can do about it. Now, I could put my money somewhere maybe, but those are the decisions you make. You make the decisions about things you can actually do, because then you feel empowered. There's something really hopeless and powerless about being in a world where so much is happening, you can't control any of it. and it's so divisive, and you can be fearful that somehow something is happening, and you're just going to be having to roll with it because you don't have any power to change anything. But the other point then obviously is that I would like to talk about what you can do. I mean, it's so important to see that when you connect to anything, the first place you have to connect to is yourself. For you to be able to show up for someone else, you need to know how you're showing up. You need to have awakened who you are and how you're feeling. So I like people to just get in touch with what makes them tick, what's important to them in relationships, in identity, in how they're showing up, and how they can be authentically themselves, and what they're doing in their career, and how that can be more and more reflective of things that they are in charge of or that they can have success with. And then also it's health, and making sure that their health, which is looking at what they're eating and not eating, and the chemical pieces of their well-being, versus their health, physical health, and stresses that they're having because they're doing too much of one thing or not enough of another. But underneath it all is the emotional health, and handling those depressive, anxiety, all of those emotions that are there, sitting there, that maybe are underpinning everything on top of it. And so you're not necessarily in the right mindset to even see any joy in your life, to actually see the good things that are going on. And so being able to just say, I'm going to get very clear on who I am, then look to how you're supporting your friends and family, and just make sure that you touch base with the right people. Make sure that you've got an environment which feels nurturing, because we are animals of a sort that love being in groups. We are, tribal. We are group forming, and so to live on our own is not really how we're meant to be, I don't think. And so to be able to reach out to other people and to make connections, to show you that the world is divisive on the one hand, but there's lots of lovely, great things going on where people are coming together, new allegiances are being formed, new concepts are being devised, there's new initiatives. So many different things come from when there is a division, because we would sort of see division as something that's on the negative side, it's something split apart, whereas the other side would be coming together. And if we know that really we can't have one without the other,
Right.
it's just that the other, we're not looking in the right places where the unity is happening. We're not looking to see how if we bring it back to what we can really control, we can have a sense of power, we can have a sense of creativity, and be able to implement things to support our families, support our communities, support ourselves. But it starts here and goes outwards rather than in any other direction, because that's where you can be authentic and you're making a difference. It feels so lovely when you can do what you love, and then it's rewarding you and you're feeling connected, and that actually you're making a change. What can you really do? You can volunteer, you can create something that will make a difference, you can help other people or educate somebody. But really, if you can keep it within your sphere of awareness, you're going to be far more healthy than if you are worrying and externalizing and looking at what they're doing on the TV and looking at what they're saying on the radio and just watching their filter of stuff without actually exploring what you have. So this is time to wake up. Time to be more comfy in your own skin,
That is great advice. I love your use of the word filter. It's someone else's filter. Use your own, right?
Yeah. I mean, the news agents are not silly. They know how to capture your attention and keep it.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why they're saying the stories the way they are. So to have a pinch of salt with everything, just make sure that that you're in your own integrity. I think that's the most important thing.
Well, that was wonderful advice, Tania. I always learn something from you when I talk to you. Well, thanks for joining us. And we'll have to start scheming of other topics we could talk about.
Oh yeah, there's plenty.
Oh, there
Okay,
are plenty. There are
good.
plenty. Okay, great. Great to see you.
Bye.
Bye.